Alright guys, Dokkan has dropped the official EZA details for the INT Majin Vegeta, something I did not expect for at least another week's time, maybe even the week after, but we have got them already today. So I am very much excited to get into these. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments. We are starting with his entrance animation when there is an ally whose name includes Trunks on the team or a Majin Buu Saga category enemy. Dokkan, no. No. Don't get me wrong, there are more good Trunks units than they were when he first dropped, but that has always been one of his biggest issues, is getting a good Trunks units on the team. And as I said, do not get me wrong, we have actual Super Saiyan Trunks units now, or just Trunks units in general, that can actually fill that spot. You've got this guy here, you've got the hybrid trio, even though you don't actually see them that often anymore. You also have the EZA, Vegeta and Trunks, but only really for long content. I mean, if you really need to, you could use his Super EZA, but it's nothing special, it's not great. But as a slot 3 unit, just to get the entrance animation off, maybe. And then maybe these guys, if you can dodge. Sure, we've got quite a few more options than we did initially when Majin Vegeta first come out. However, the fact that Dokkan put in like an either-or condition, an alternative with the Majin Buu Saga category enemy, is great. However, all they had to do was do this in one different way, and this would have been 10 times better. So you could have had your Trunks unit, or you could have had a Majin Buu Saga category unit, because then you could have used the new LR for Saiyan Day, you could have used Deborah, Yakon, Pui Pui, you could have used the Buu Duo EZA, but instead you decided to do it as an enemy where we don't really have any Majin Buu Saga category enemies, so it's either pretty much Trunks or nothing, and if you are missing some of those units, it becomes even more strenuous for you to actually get a Trunks on your team to trigger all of these. Now, the reason why this is so important is because this 30% damage reduction at some points, and it was back in the day when he first released, could actually be make or break whether Majin Vegeta survives. And that depends what they do with the rest of his EZA, but that 30% damage reduction being locked behind a Trunks or a Majin Buu Saga category enemy, it's a tough thing, Dokkan. We could have changed this a bit. I mean, you did, but you could have done it in a much better way. Because even though all of these trigger once, they last on Majin Vegeta for the whole battle. So we've also got the 50% attack and defense for the character and ally whose name includes Trunks, and a 70% chance to crit. It's mainly this. Like, the 50% stats is nice, you know, giving out to Trunkses. Which, I mean, hey, combined with Blue Boys from GDC with the Vegeta, I mean, you can actually buff out Trunks units pretty well. Maybe that's going to help the Super EZA quite a lot. It's mainly the damage reduction, man. I said, if we just made this Majin Buu Saga category ally, this would have been light work. But anyway, he does start with 250 attack and defense, launch an additional attack that's a 50% chance to become a super attack, changes Ki Sphere's strength to INT, so his own orb change of that is good. When HP is 88% or less, he gains 88% attack, randomly changes Ki Spheres of a certain type to INT Ki Spheres, combined with the strength to INT he's already got. Again, very, very good, but of course conditional. Then when activating the active skill or when attacking with 12 or more Ki, he gains an extra 250 attack, an additional 200% attack when HP is 88% or less, or with the 3 or more INT Ki Spheres or 5 or more Ki Spheres obtained as well. So I quite like that you have a lot of alternatives to this. So it's either, which was his usual gimmick before, you're below a certain threshold. You know, the whole kind of gimmick around Vegeta basically doing final explosion. The more he kept getting hit, the more he keeps dying as a Saiyan. Of course, they come back stronger. The fact that you either need 3 or more INT Ki Spheres or just 5. So I like that there's a lot of room for alternative to actually get this. Then when receiving an attack with 12 or more Ki, 200% defense. Then with 1 or more INT Ki Sphere obtained or 3 or more Ki Spheres obtained, he will gain 150 defense with guaranteed guard, 20% damage reduction. And this is why his entrance animation being a lot more lenient would have been so much better, because then you've got guard, you've got 20% damage reduction. All you need is 1 INT orb, and he's his own INT orb changer. Just saying. Then if you manage to keep this, you got 50% damage reduction and guard. And then if you put him in slot 2 or slot 3 and he super attacks, you've got the buff for the defense, you've got this extra stats coming in here defensively, along with the guard and all of that damage reduction. You know, at least be on 50%. Why, Dokkan? Why do we have to stick to this? Like, you had an alternative, but you made it so shit. It's annoying as well because that's my boy and I love Majin Vegeta so much. Like, I've literally got the Majin symbol tattooed on my hand. Like, I love Majin Vegeta so much. And I was so gassed when I pulled this guy, but this Trunks restriction. Jarring. Now, where are we up to? 3 or more int keys is obtained or 5 or more key spheres obtained. 10% damage reduction before attacking. That's his possibility to go in slot 1. And again, this is why it was so important to make this a lot more lenient so you could actually get this easily. Because, let's be real, in the content we have nowadays, and even then, to be fair, it was a bit risky to do unless you had the Trunks unit giving you the extra damage reduction and stats. You would have guard, 20% damage reduction, 30 taking you to 50, and then the extra 20 over here, no, that's the same thing, extra 10 from here, that's 60% damage reduction with guard in slot 1. That was needed when he first dropped. Now think about the type of super attacks that are coming out nowadays. They're at least 3.5, 4.5 million and above. Unless you're Bio Broly and you've got 20 mil. And you only get this in slot 1 as well. So you're not popping this guy in slot 1 unless you have a Trunks unit on the team. Because then you're looking at, what, 50% damage reduction and guard. Which again, I know is still kind of crazy today to say. But in the big 2026... in slot 1, unless you've got tons and tons of starter turn defense, which unfortunately he doesn't. He's not going there. However, you can just put him in slot 2 and I'm sure he'll be fine. Launches an additional attack. There's a 70% chance to become a super attack, and Majin Buu Saga category allows 40% attack and defense for 2 turns, which he also gets because it doesn't say self-excluded. That Majin Buu Saga support is really nice because then you can give it to a Trunks unit, you can give it to the Buu Duo, you can give it to Deborah, you can give it to Yakon, you can give it to Pui Pui, you can give it to the LR. I do like the support a lot. That is really nice. I think overall his EZA does look really good. It looks very solid. He does a good job. Strong unit, should be great damage-wise. Own orb changer, which is good at helping him get all of these extra buffs. Damage reduction and guard is nice, especially post-super attack. Again, slot 2, slot 3 should pretty be fairly okay, which is good. However, locking this behind the Trunks or Majin Buu Saga category enemy, dead. Dead, because all of these are permanent. And I know I mainly focus on damage reduction just because it's the most important out of the lot, but then you're missing stats. You're missing 50% attack and defense, which I know isn't a lot, but it's extra stats at the end of the day, which he gets to keep for the whole fight. 70% chance to crit with the amount of extra attack he gets. That's some big damage, like actual raw damage to miss out on. But mainly it's that damage reduction, man. And again, I know there's a lot more Trunks units you can actually use nowadays, but say you don't have most of them. And like Super EZA, LR Fizz Trunks, like one of your only options. He's not bad, but he's not good either. I mean, at least we've got more options for Trunks units than we did when he first released. I guess that's the only silver lining, but it's so jarring that if they just done Majin Buu Saga category ally, that would have been 10 times better. But then he'll greatly raise attack by 50%, raise defense by 30% for 1 turn, cause immense damage to the enemy, and he also raises allies' defense by 20% for 1 turn, self-excluded. A little bit jarring that it's self-excluded, but that's okay, because that means when you're giving out the Majin Buu Saga support and this, that means whoever's in slot 3, if they're a Majin Buu Saga category unit, like if you're running him with Deborah and again the new LR, you know, they're getting a total of what, 40% attack and 60% defense, which is actually really, really nice. I think all in all, this Majin Vegeta is going to do some very, very good damage, especially if you do have the entrance animation popped and with that crit chance. I do think defensively he's going to be fine, especially in slot 2 or slot 3, and especially with that damage reduction off his entrance animation with the Trunks unit or the Majin Buu Saga category enemy. I just wish the condition was a lot more lenient, but anyway, here we are. I think even without it, he should be tanking fine. Maybe some of the bigger boy super attacks are going to catch him. But man, it's just that Trunks condition. I know they've updated it. I know they've made it a little bit more lenient, but it's not lenient enough, unfortunately. But overall, still a very good, still a very solid EZA. Cannot wait to try him out. He'll probably go really well on Deborah's team and the new LR's team, especially for the extreme units as well. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care of the rest of your day, and peace.